In this video, I'm going to show you how to create a panorama inside both Adobe Lightroom Classic CC and Lightroom CC. It used to be way back in the day that you had to export all of these photos to Photoshop or use some third-party software. And I remember it used to be like $200–300 to get good panorama software. And thankfully, those days are long gone. And with just a few clicks, you can create a stunning panorama. And what's more is that the image file you're given as a result is a DNG or whatever raw format you use, you get a raw format file back. Really useful when it comes to processing your photos. So let's get started. I'm here inside Adobe Lightroom Classic CC, and I've got the photos I want to use for a panorama. There's 9 of them in this image, and I'm going to select all of them. And we've got two options. We can either right click and go up to Photo Merge and Panorama, or we can go up to the menu here and go to Photo, then go down and click on Photo Merge and then Panorama. There's also HDR Panorama here, but we're not going to cover that in this video. It's also not that relevant. They're two different tools and you basically use two tools at once. So we might just skip past that for now. So here a dialog pops up and we have a Panorama Merge preview. This can take a minute or so depending on the size of your images and how many images you're using. And you'll see that there's 3 options for projections: spherical, cylindrical, and perspective. So spherical works best in my experience when I'm capturing a landscape panorama or any kind of panorama where I'm standing in one spot and I'm just going do, 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 do. Cylindrical is similar, but it's just slightly different in the results. I encourage you to select all 3 and see which works. Perspective doesn't typically work with this kind of panorama. The majority of the time though, spherical is all you're going to need. So this is what we're going to focus on in this video. And we have a bunch of different options down here. We have boundary warp, which we'll get to in just a moment. That's a really cool tool. We have auto crop, auto settings, and create stack. So auto crop is going to do exactly what it says on the tin, and it's going to automatically crop the image for me, but we don't want to use that. We can crop this ourselves later, so don't use auto crop. There's auto settings, which adds sort of a HDR look to the photograph. Personally, I want to have full control over the settings as well, so I don't use that. And there's also create stack. If I select this, it's basically, in fact, you can see here, it says it's going to create a stack with the merged images. It's going to take these 9 images and put them into a stack inside Lightroom. I'm going to select this so you can see what it looks like as well, because it can be useful when you're organizing your photos in Lightroom. And now for one of my favorite features, and that is boundary warp. It's going to allow me to push this image into the corner of this photograph. So watch this as I push it towards the right. And now I have a photograph that I don't need to crop because I'm restricted by what's going on in the corners. I might want to crop it later anyway, but I've managed to push this photo and stretch it out into the corners without changing the perspective all that much. If you looked at this photo for the first time, you probably would not notice that I've used that function. And if that's the case, then it's fine to use in my books. So now that that's done, we're going to hit merge. And you can see up here in the top left, it's creating a panorama. It's going to take a minute or 2. Now that that process is completed, you'll see that 2 things have happened. 1, we've created a stack, and 2, we've created the merged panorama. If I click on this 10, you'll see it's going to open up all the images that go inside this panorama, and I can close it again and just work on this one processed image. Really useful tip for the workflow and organization of your photos. Now I'm left with an unprocessed raw file that I can then process to create a beautiful panorama. I won't do that in this video because we've covered this in many different videos, but that is the process to creating a panorama. Now let's have a look inside Adobe Lightroom CC, and you'll see basically the same thing. I can go right click Photo Merge, and I'm going to do Panorama Merge here, and I have spherical, cylindrical, perspective, and boundary warp. I also have auto crop, but notice I don't have the option to add it into a stack or do automatic settings and automatic, it's just those 2 that I'm missing. Auto crop's still there. So those 2 settings have disappeared in this version of Lightroom. Don't ask me why. And to be honest, I don't think it's really that important. It is useful to see a visual representation of spherical, cylindrical, and perspective, but I personally still think that Classic CC is the better version of Lightroom, and that's why I continue to do my processing there. So thanks very much for watching. That is how to create a panorama inside Adobe Lightroom. If you have any questions, please leave me a comment. Thank you.